Once a banana starts to ripen naturally, it's only good for maybe a couple days. So how in the world could you transport something like this long distances? Well, of course, you cut it when it's still green, and then you ripen it artificially. So even at that time, I thought, well, if animals don't eat green bananas at all, and we're picking the bananas green, and they're ripening artificially, is that as good? And as you know, being a carnivore dieter, I don't generally eat fruit. However, on the times when meat is in short supply like now, the price of beef is absolutely outrageous. It's getting to the point where I can't afford it. So I'm going to have to go to the canal maybe and get some wild duck or iguana or whatever, which I'll do, of course. And duck is a delicious red meat. But to supplement my diet, to make sure that I'm not cutting back on too much energy, I may have to add some fruit. Now, I don't really like fruit, but when it comes to eating fruit, I have always been very suspicious of eating fruit that was produced somewhere else and shipped in. Because I always wondered what happens chemically to a piece of fruit when it's been artificially ripened. Now, I'll give you another example. Florida was famous for citrus. You think about Anita Bryant and her commercials. Well, citrus diseases have wiped out pretty much all the citrus. But look at this. A wild sour orange tree. Look at all that fruit growing here under other trees. It's got a little bit of insect damage, but not much. Look at how healthy this is. This plant actually had citrus canker at one time, and it rotted. It pretty much half died, and then it re-sprouted, which is kind of interesting. The fruits that it used to produce were rounded, but now it's sort of produced this. Now, we have some sap dripping from the gumbo limbo tree, and it kind of makes me wonder if being underneath these other plants protects this citrus tree from insects and disease. The fruit actually looks pretty good. I don't see any leaf miners. It really is surprising because every citrus tree in this neighborhood would be attacked by leaf hoppers and leaf miners. Here's probably some thrips that have rolled up the leaves. Pop that out of there. They're probably hiding out in here. Yeah, there's a few of them, see? There's a few bugs, but it's not that bad. So, what I was trying to express, if I let this fruit ripen naturally on the tree and I eat it, I think it's better than buying something in the store that was grown under a tremendous amount of chemicals in artificial conditions, had to be transported long distances and somehow preserved, has been exposed to various temperature changes. Not a very good setup. Look at this little banana plant trying to grow out of a pot. It's surviving, but not doing that great. But anyway, that's what I've been thinking. Now, these banana leaves need to be trimmed because when this plant fell down, it sort of broke some of the leaves on these. So we'll do that. And you'll notice also this one was trimmed before because a few months ago, another banana plant fell over and broke it. And again, I need to trim these trees up top. They're getting way too big. So we'll get the rope saw and trim that. But in terms of fruit, if you're going to eat fruit, and again, I'm not saying you shouldn't. You can be a carnivore, eat 70% or more of your diet of meat, or even animal foods like eggs, maybe dairy, I don't know, and you're still a carnivore. Just like if you eat 70% or more of your diet as plant material, you would be plant-based, which would kind of mean that the average American eating the SAD diet is plant-based, even though they blame the meat for all their problems. So if your diet is mostly meat, like mine is, and you end up at a point where, well, you just can't get the meat, can't afford it, and think about this. What if we have some kind of economic disaster, which is only a matter of time, and meat becomes impossible to get or extremely unaffordable? Are you going to simply starve? So it may be a good idea to add some local fruit to your diet. Now, if you're a person that is, let's say, sugar addicted, and you come from a metabolically unhealthy state, it would be a terrible idea. You really need to figure out a way to store meat or other animal products long term, even if you can freeze dry eggs or something like that. Or if you're really smart, what I want to do, move away from the city and move to a rural area where you can raise some of your own animals. And you can also trade with other people, because even if you are not a farmer, maybe you have another trade or skill that you can barter. I mean, let's say you were a doctor and you just didn't know anything about farming, didn't want to go out in the sun, but you could provide services for farmers and farmers' families, and you'd be able to trade that. So if the dollar became totally worthless, the economy was in shambles with the Federal Reserve doing what they always do, printing tons of money for the wealthy, you would still be able to eat well. And you can see this in a lot of these communist countries. Even though officially they can't keep their own food, they bribe police and officials and stuff like that, and then they get to eat what they want as long as they give some to the people that they bribe. But that's an option. But if you live in a suburb or you live in a place that has a little bit of property, it might be a good idea to replace your lawn, which is a lot of work. And can you imagine, it's been 90 degrees plus here for months. I mean, it's been as hot as 100 degrees this year. We haven't had a single day where the high temperature was below 90 degrees, except when it was pouring down rain. These trees really help because they're going to block the sunlight. They keep the little bit of concrete here from getting hot. They keep my vehicles from getting hot. The temperature in this yard, the air temperature may be 90 degrees, as visible by the thermometer, but when you get closer to the ground, it's in the 80s. So that's actually a good thing. But yeah, if you're one of those people that can eat fruit and does not have a problem, you might want to consider growing some. And some people can even eat vegetables. Not everybody is going to be destroyed by vegetables. And the thing about vegetables, it all depends how you prepare them. Vegetables can be cooked and vegetables can be fermented. And really, when it comes down to it, when we're eating meat, we're basically eating cooked and fermented vegetables, except it's cooked at something less than 100 degrees and fermented inside of an animal. So that's something to think about too. Now, again, carnivore diet, great. And for somebody who's been eating a standard duck diet for a long time, it's a great way to reset your system. And I suggest everybody try the carnivore diet at least once. You need to go 6 months out. But if you're like my friend that came from a vegan background, after a month on the carnivore diet, he was in total misery. So what did he end up doing? He ended up with a modified carnivore diet, where the diet is 50% animal products. It's gone up now. I think he says it's up to 60%, but he still uses fruit and fermented vegetables. And he's found that fermented vegetables, such as sauerkraut, have made a tremendous difference, and he's been able to increase his meat intake by eating those fermented vegetables. So again, it might be a good idea to look into some of this plant material, because ultimately, no matter what we eat, no matter what we call ourselves, every one of us is plant-based. And that's because although entropy is a second law of thermodynamics, here on the Earth, we have a very important source of reduced entropy, the sun. And there's only one type of life that can turn solar energy into chemical energy that we can use. And you know what they are. Now again, some of these plants come with some serious drawbacks, such as this, extremely toxic. But that doesn't mean that some of them are actually beneficial. They do produce fruit that's edible, and human beings, unlike, let's say, a lion or even a house cat, have the ability to eat just about anything. I mean, when you see the garbage that people eat, the nasty processed crap, and they go on for quite a while, and you see younger people, I've seen guys in teens and 20s and even 30s that look really good, perform really well. They drink soda, they eat snacks, they take energy drinks. I'm sure eventually they burn out. That's just the way it is. But for a while they do quite well. I've seen a lot of kids grow up on that garbage. Even when I was a kid, the sodas and the junk food and all that. And they were in high school and college. In the college they were drinking and drugs and whatever else, and they kept going. I didn't do that because I was sort of the sickly kid. And of course now I seem to be a lot healthier than they are. When I look at them, I can't recognize some people the way they used to look. But everybody that I've known that's lived to an old age, 90 or over, ate a very basic diet. The one man basically had a carnivore diet. He lived to 98. He was driving until a month before he died and was pretty alert. We had a vegetarian friend that lived to 96, and his mind was good, although he had a lot of difficulties in the last 10 years of his life. Eyesight went, and kind of weak, and had issues with blood pressure, and there were some health issues, but he still lived a good long life. And we've known a couple of women that lived over 100. Neither one of them was vegan, that's for sure. In fact, the one lady lived to 113, and she would eat at McDonald's from time to time. But then again, she lived in a house with no air conditioning, a yard full of plants, and walked pretty much every day of her life until she got mugged at the age of 110. And then after that, well, once you stop moving, that's usually when you start dying. So that's just what I wanted to talk about. The little morning words from Rick. And I hope everyone's going to have a great week. I hope I will too. Hopefully later today, my mailbox will have ribbon cable so I can fix the clock spring in my van and get the airbag and, well, the horn to work, which would be kind of nice. And, I've got work to do this week. I have to install an air conditioner. I have some electrical work to do and stuff like that. So we'll see. But I'm going to take it easy today. The main work week will start on Tuesday. This gives me a little chance to make a video or two. And again, hope you're having a great day, and I'll catch you later.